While the Israelis struck gas infrastructure in the southern part of Iran, the Iranians targeted women and children.
Iran also refusing the next round of nuclear talks with the U.S., calling it unjustifiable. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says rising global oil prices following the Israel-Iran conflict will strengthen Russia by increasing the Kremlin's oil revenues. America is listening to Fox News.
From around the world, Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel. To Washington.
I'm Mike Emanuel.
To your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, this is Trey Gowdy, host of the Trey Gowdy Podcast. Every Tuesday, you'll hear what's on my mind. Plus, every Thursday, there's a special bonus episode where we answer the questions that are on your mind. Make sure to spend your Tuesdays and Thursdays with Trey. Subscribe now at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts. Hope to see you.
America's listening to Fox News.
Celebrations and protests.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level. On the go.
The sentencing in a 1-year-old's murder. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. After accepting plea deals, Roan Waters and Madison Marshall are both sentenced to multiple decades in prison for the killing of 1-year-old Oakley Snow. The Marion County Coroner's Office ruled her death a homicide after her body was found inside a dresser drawer in an abandoned home in Indiana in April of 2023. Marshall got 25 years behind bars and Waters 45.
That 45 years is an important number because although he was not convicted of murder, that's a sentence that murderers do serve. And that was an important outcome in this case, was to reflect the gravity of what he had done.
That's Chief Trial Deputy with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, Dan Cecchini. Drugs were coming from Phoenix to Indy, but a bus Friday may have slowed that down a lot. Chris Davis reports.
Plenty of meth, fentanyl, Xanax, coke, and heroin were coming here from both Arizona and Texas. And Friday, that pipeline was shut down. 21 people were indicted, and 19 were actually rounded up and arrested, including the man U.S. Attorney John Childress says was the ringleader, 55-year-old Eric L. Robinson, and 18 other people charged along with him with conspiracy to deal drugs on the federal level. Robinson's responsibility was to receive the packages and distribute the drugs throughout the Indy Metro. Chris Davis, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
An 8-month criminal investigation leading to the arrest of a man from Greentown. Dustin Eckelbogger is now facing corrupt business influence, fraud, and forgery charges. Police say they started investigating him in October of 2024 when he was working as a salesman at a farm equipment store. He was able to fabricate purchase orders and secure more than $650,000 in loans under the names of local farmers. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Showers will exit early on, but cloudy skies remain. Low temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Mostly cloudy to partly cloudy skies for Father's Day. There is an isolated chance mainly south of I-70. Highs in the low 80s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
911, what's your emergency?
Por favor, necesito ayuda. Está volando y creo que me va a pegar otra vez.
I will get someone to speak with you. Please stay on the line.
Hola, tenemos ubicación. Ayuda está en camino.
Getting past a language barrier is critical when first responders help Hoosiers. That's why the State 911 Board provides special tools for non-English speaking citizens to communicate with emergency services.
Si estás en peligro, aunque no hables inglés, podrás recibir ayuda en una emergencia rápidamente.
All Indiana 911 centers began offering translation services in over 240 languages in 2019. Now, people can send text messages for help in their native language to 911 and receive a translated text back from the dispatcher. It's of great help to the deaf and speech impaired and to those in select dangerous situations.
Cuando llame o envíe un texto al 911, un servicio de traducción se asegurará que entiendan lo que está diciendo.
For more information, visit in911.net.
Gracias.
911. Before you text, voice is best.
Plumbing problems stink. The LD Smith Crew can handle anything. Call today for $50 off any plumbing repair, big or small.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. A lot going on downtown. I got down here, actually had to Uber down here. My car's in the shop. And Ubered down, got let off a couple of blocks from the Circle. And I was, anticipating a lot of activity downtown. It's a weekend where we have a Pride celebration going on. And in fact, I believe it's the Pride celebration, quote unquote, that has the Circle blocked off. But then also there was to be today a Indianapolis version of the so-called No Kings protest, which is a protest against President Trump, saying, hey, we don't want a king in America. And I guess the underlying allegation there is that that's what Trump is or is trying to be, which I don't completely understand. And versions of this in other cities have resulted reportedly in some degree of discordant conduct and perhaps violence and destruction of property. And we're obviously concerned about that happening in Indy. But I'll tell you what, I have on the phone FOP President Rick Snyder, who represents our law enforcement officers here in central Indiana at all levels, local, state, and federal. And there's no better spokesperson that we could possibly have to give the viewpoint of law enforcement when it comes to this kind of an issue. And Rick, first of all, thanks. Welcome back to the Gun Guy Show, and thanks so much for joining us. What are your folks seeing out there?
Well, really, it's been a very peaceful day, and a lot of folks have been able to come downtown and express themselves and really show what community and unity can be about, even with differing points of views. Guy, we say all the time, IMPD officers are the best in the business when it comes to ensuring that people can have a good time at large events, especially with being the sporting capital of the world, but also for the opportunity for folks to get together, to assemble peaceably, and petition their government for redress of grievances. We'll always defend that. We'll always protect that. The one thing we cannot tolerate as officers and as a community are those folks who show up with radical, agenda-driven motives and start to enact violence. And, that has not occurred, not only today, but remember, we had the protest during the NBA Finals games when our capital city, was in the national and international spotlight, and that carried on without any issues as well. So kudos to our officers, but I also want to say, well done, Indianapolis, for showing that it can be done safely and it can be done without violence.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And listen, I saw some video from downtown exactly of what you're describing, Rick, which is, after the Pacer game, the Pacer fans streamed out. There were some protesters around, and there was a little bit of competing shouting, but I was really excited to see that the Pacer fans' cheers of USA, USA, USA were clearly the dominant sound that anybody heard in those video, and that was pretty cool to see. But it reinforces exactly what you just said, is that everybody was expressing their view, but everybody did it peaceably and within the bounds of the law, and I think that says great things about Indianapolis.
Well, and, I always say this, it's never about the capability of your police. What it ultimately comes down to is if our politicians are going to try to play the police, like we've seen in years past, and then turn tail and go and hide when things escalate. That's the real question. And so what we have found is, listen, Chief of Police Chris Bailey, he's doing an excellent job, and he knows how to get this work done through our professional police officers. We're backed by a new Indiana State Police Superintendent who is doing an excellent job. And we had full faith and confidence that this governor, it was made clear to us that our new governor would never allow things to devolve to the situation that we've seen in other cities and other states. And so when you have folks that just simply say, listen, we're going to make sure that we don't return to the death and destruction of 2020. We're going to uphold the law, and we're going to restore order when need be. And we also communicate this salient message. Vandalism, violence, and attacks on our officers are never acceptable. And so when our officers are allowed to enforce the laws, as you can see, everything moves along just fine, and people have the opportunity to express themselves, but also stand together and enjoy themselves as well.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, Rick, because you mentioned 2020, and listen, I was down here in this exact same seat doing the show during the day when we had the first evening of what turned out to be very bad riots, a lot of destruction. And during the day, actually, during my show, much like I'm doing now, I was looking out the window and looking at the circle, and there were some people out there, voicing their opinions, their views on different issues, but everybody seemed to be doing it peaceably. And I mentioned that on the air. I said, "Man, I see people passing out water bottles to each other, and it looks pretty good." And then a little after my show was over and the sun started going down, once it got dark, all of a sudden there seemed to be a whole new element descended into downtown. And all of a sudden, you had people walking around with backpacks full of bricks, and you had people breaking a lot of windows and starting fires and doing a lot of other things. I'm assuming that not only IMPD, but all elements of law enforcement in Indy are still on high alert with the possibility that this thing goes south after the sun goes down.
Well, Guy, for as positive as I've been, allow me to be pessimistic and negative with you for just a moment. All of that negative and terrible time that we've had, it's coming back. I keep saying this and waving the red flags. And the question becomes, what are we going to do as a community about it? Because what you witnessed personally in 2020 is still there. And in fact, they've had 4 more years to practice, to probe the lines, and to better understand tactics and what will and won't work. What they don't know is what line will communities draw in the sand about it? Listen, there are violent opportunists whose real focus, I'm just going to be upfront with you, are based on Marxist communist principles. They're unabashed about saying that. And the reason why that's so important is because they're fueled with shadow funding that pays for professional anarchists.
Exactly.
And their sole focus is the destruction of the country, the destruction of American principles. And, Guy, we can prove it to you because think about how all these protests have panned out. They first told us that they were actually about what lives matter. Then they changed it and said they were about LGBTQI+++. Then they said it was about, no, it's actually about being pro-Palestine. We found out that was about pro-Hamas. And when we actually found out, it was about attacks on Jews that we've seen in Washington, D.C., and Colorado and other places. And now we're being told it's about being pro-illegal alien. The question becomes, and the point is this, I believe, and I know officers believe this, Americans are exhausted. And they've come to realize that this really is about a whole bunch of other issues that are about anti-rights, anti-religious rights, women's rights, sovereign rights, property rights, gun rights, as you talk about. But, Guy, as a firm believer, I would just tell you that ultimately when you step back and look at all of this, what you really see is just simply a spirit of Antichrist. And what we have to say as communities, where we believe that we are given God-given rights and that we have freedom of religion, we have to stand against those who say that our rights are determined by man, and really what they show is their religion has become government. And those are the issues that we're seeing in our country. And I think where we're at right now is we finally have a president of the United States who is supporting law enforcement, local law enforcement, like we've seen in L.A. Even if their political leaders shove them to the front of the political junk that they have created, you have a federal administration that's going to back the play of the local officers and get them the help and resources that they need when they need it.
Well, when we talk about help and resources, part of that, it seems to me, is also support from whatever administration is in power here locally. And without trying to turn the conversation into a criticism of elected officials, the question I have today, this evening, whatever does or doesn't happen here this evening, do you feel like IMPD officers have the backing, have the support of the political officials that matter here locally to do their jobs and to stop people who are breaking the law, who are destroying property, who are attacking officers or attacking other citizens, because there was certainly a question in 2020 of whether officers felt like they were empowered to do their jobs. And I'm hoping, I mean, obviously we're still under the same mayor that we were in 2020, unfortunately, but I'm hoping that this year with a new chief and a new governor, as you mentioned, that officers are feeling more empowered to do their jobs, at least more so than they were in 2020.
Absolutely. And I think with the chief of police, I think the question becomes, do politicians allow their chief of police to do professional law enforcement work that they know they need to do? Here's the thing. The tactics that our officers use, even recommendations that were made post-2020 of how we should do business in similar riotous situations, here's what nobody talked about. IMPD already was doing those things. This is what I keep saying and shouting from the rooftops. IMPD is the best in the business when it comes to these things. That's not bloviating. That's the truth. Think about it. Just last month, we hosted the Indianapolis 500, almost 500,000 people total, inside the track, outside the track, for that one singular event. Immediately backed up by an NBA conference championship game in the same city, while at the same time providing police service to over 1 million plus people in the neighborhoods throughout our capital city. And there was no property destruction, no injuries, no loss of life. What I keep saying is day in and day out, our officers prove that it can be done. So when things go off the rails, the question becomes, what changed? Well, what changed is you have radical, violent opportunists combined with politicians who lack the testicular fortitude. Mm-hmm. And when you get that combination, Guy, it can have deadly consequences and outcomes, which is what we saw in 2020. So have we learned our lesson? I trust we have. I sure hope we have. Time will tell. But I think what is different now is that the populace, the community, those who we are out there to serve and protect, they know what is up. They know what is going on, and they know that it can be done correctly. And so that was the great blessing of this week for folks to see that and see the professional work of IMPD and our other law enforcement partners.
Well, Rick Snyder, I'll tell you what, thank you so much. We've gone a little over the quarter hour, but this is a very important conversation. I absolutely love having you on the show whenever you're willing to give us your time, and I appreciate it more than you know. Rick Snyder, Lodge 86 president of the Fraternal Order of Police. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being on here, and you deliver a very important message, and I'm glad we can get it out.
Thank you, man. Always will make time for your audience.
Always. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll tell you what, we're a little past quarter hour. It's time to take a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Another update is just minutes away.
Disaster in India. Plane went down in flames. One part of the plane seems to be intact. Don't know yet the fate of all the passengers and crew.
Hear the news.
Taking a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Game 4 is Friday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
As events happen,
actions of Hogsett's former deputy mayor
we'll happen to be there.
HR recommendation that he should have been fired.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. We've got another one of those coming up on Saturday, July 12th, so less than a month away. We still have some seats available, although it always sells out, so you want to get your ticket now. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. It says 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. When can you use force, including deadly force, in self-defense or defense of a third person? How do you avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like intimidation with a deadly weapon, criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon, pointing a firearm, which, yes, is a crime. In fact, it's a felony here in Indiana. That and a whole heck of a lot more. We take a ton of questions during the class, and so it's always informative for everybody who attends. We'd love to see you there. The next one is 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at Indy Arms, located conveniently on the northeast side of Indy on 55th Street. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Home sales activity is good, not great. So many homes, if improperly marketed, are sitting on the market. Hiring the wrong sales agent will cost you time and money. Hire the expert who maximizes equity and sells fast. The expert realtor I recommend is Mark Dietl. Perhaps you're worried with the challenging market, you won't sell your home for the price it's worth. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what John in Greencastle had to say about working with Mark Dietl. I just bought a home in Greencastle. Shortly after, my son moved to the Fishers area, which left me an hour away from family and 45 minutes from work. A big mistake, and I felt stuck since I had been in the home less than a year. I asked the Mark Dietl team for help, and they delivered big. My home sold in 14 days for the price I needed so I could move closer to family and work. Call the local Indianapolis agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietl at 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietl.com. That's Mark, Dietel.com.
Comcast Business is celebrating Small Business Month by giving you a $1,000 small business bonus when you switch to a qualifying gig speed package from the company with over 99.99% network reliability. Just imagine the thousands of possibilities of a $1,000 prepaid card. Like possibility number 1, company merch for staff. Styling. Or possibility number 24, the latest software. Upgrade. Or possibility number 192, new equipment powered by gig speeds. Or possibility number 555, a 3D printer. Rapid prototyping, anyone? Switch to Comcast Business for over 99.99% network reliability, advanced cybersecurity, and now get started with a $1,000 small business bonus. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
And 6/22/25. New customers only with 2-year agreement. Other restrictions apply.
Turning 65, new to Medicare, or just moved? If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, a D-SNP, may give you the extra benefits you're looking for. A D-SNP helps cover things like prescriptions and checkups, but it also helps pay for essentials too. With a Humana D-SNP, you get $225 a month for eligible groceries, rent, utilities, and more. Plus, whatever you don't spend carries over to the next month. You may even get benefits like $0 copays on routine prescriptions, plus routine dental, vision, or hearing coverage. All of this could make a difference for your health and wallet. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a coordinated care HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the Indiana Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There are 48 million unpaid family caregivers in the United States. Visit aarp.org/caregiving to access a free guide to help navigate your caregiving journey.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Thanks again to Rick Snyder. I'll tell you what, I consider Rick a dear friend. He has a tremendous podcast, by the way, and I'll put the link up to this on my social media. And it's a faith-based podcast. I've was honored to participate in one episode of that. I will put that up. But that'll tell you a lot also about the man that Rick Snyder is, the person, and not just the law enforcement officer. But he always brings a voice of wisdom. It's funny, on the YouTube chat, I looked over right in the middle of that interview. I looked over and at least one person was saying, yeah, Rick really needs to run for mayor. I tell you what, I don't think I'm ever on the radio, whether it's when I'm subbing for someone or during Monday Gun Day on Hammer and Nigel, or when Rick appears on my show or I'd post a podcast, whatever it might be, involving Rick Snyder. I don't think there's ever a time when somebody doesn't respond, that guy needs to run for mayor. And I couldn't agree more. I know he gets asked that all the time. And I'm not sure if he has any political aspirations or not. That's something that's not something I've discussed with him. But listen, Indy would be lucky to have him. Man, I don't live in Marion County, so I wouldn't have a vote. But there's about nobody I'd rather see be mayor of Indianapolis than Rick Snyder. So anyway, thanks so much. And listen, so far, again, I was all optimistic 5 years ago. When during the, as Hammer and Nigel say, the summer of love, when we had the George Floyd protest going on, and during the day, like I said, it looked pretty peaceful, and then all hell broke loose at night, and suddenly you had businesses on fire, businesses destroyed, windows broken that remained boarded up for weeks and months. Downtown Indy was transformed, I think, by those events. Some businesses never recovered, and that's unforgivable, because listen, our law enforcement officers, and look, I have an interesting relationship with the cops. I'm a defense attorney, and so a lot of times police officers are my enemies in the wild, right? I mean, I have to cross-examine a lot of police officers. I have to reveal when officers may be exaggerating or stretching the truth, or may not have the evidence that they say they have supporting a crime, or whatever it might be. A lot of times, police officers are my biggest adversaries, as well as the prosecutor's office in my criminal cases. At the same time, if you listen to the Gun Guy Show, you know that I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement, and I think that the rank and file out there, and certainly the vast majority of the people that Rick Snyder represents as FOP president, are just good people doing a tough job, and are willing to put themselves in harm's way for the good of their community. They really are protecting and serving. And I catch some heat for having that view. I've been called silly names like bootlicker and other silly things. And I don't care, because you know what? I back the blue. And even during the so-called Summer of Love, and then we had all these different attacks on police officers specifically. Police officers were being targeted, essentially for assassinations. I mean, officers were sitting in their cars, and people were walking up and shooting them. And hey, look, I put blue lights on my porch to show support for law enforcement. So I'm hoping that what Rick Snyder is true. If Rick Snyder says it, I have every belief that it is true, and that is that our officers today feel empowered to do their jobs. And if, in fact, we have people coming into town, in particular, this evening or any other time, to foment destruction and harm and violence, destruction of property, that our officers are fully empowered to do their jobs and protect the community, protect property, protect downtown, protect any other areas where this stuff might break out. And I'm optimistic that is the case. But fabulous interview from Rick Snyder, and I'm much appreciative. We're going to take another break here in just a bit, have a little bit of a short segment because we went long with Rick Snyder. But we come back, I'm going to give you a little bit more of an update on the development which has led to ATF now accepting an Indiana license to carry handgun under some circumstances, which I'll clarify. It's a little bit of a repeat of last week, but it bears just a little bit of additional discussion. That allows someone to walk into a gun store and buy a gun by simply showing their license to carry, if it's been issued within the last 5 years, in lieu of hanging out waiting for NICS, that is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, the FBI background check system, waiting for a NICS background check. ATF now says if you have a license to carry issued within the previous 5 years from the state of Indiana, that gun retailers, what we call FFLs, or federal firearms licensees, are now legally allowed to accept that license. They have to record the information off your license, the license number, the date it was issued, or they can just make a copy of it like they do your government-issued ID when you're buying a gun. They can do that in lieu of a background check. And I won't repeat the whole discussion from last week, but I have additional information on this. more and more people out there, I'm getting feedback on social media that more and more people have gone through the process and have found it very efficient, that state police really are doing a fabulous job of issuing these new 5-year licenses to the extent that anybody wants one, and they streamline the process. I got mine in less than a week from the time I applied. I applied right here on the studio, right here in the studio on the studio computer. And state police have gotten amazingly efficient down there, and I was bragging on those folks last week, and I will always do so because they really do a nice job. But I'll give a little bit more of an update. I actually talked to the ATF last week. I had a nice, long conference call with somebody from their industry operations folks. I'll talk about who that is and what information I was able to glean from them. But it was a great conversation and learned a lot more about how this process unfolded and some of the glitches that we all saw when it did. But I'll get into more detail on that when we come back. Feel free to join the discussion. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. We'll talk about what Rick Steiner and I talked about, that is potential violence here in downtown Indy and steps necessary to alleviate or mitigate or prevent that altogether. Hey, give us a call. What you're seeing out there, if you're downtown Indy, have you been through the process? Have you applied for a new 5-year license? If you've had, like me, a lifetime for a lot of years that doesn't qualify for the NICS exempt purchase, or any other topic you want to talk about, gun-related, give us a call, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Big, beautiful bill. It's big. It's a bill.
We're going to grow this economy. We're going to spend some money. But you got to spend money to make money.
Does anybody trust the government, Republicans or Democrats, to get it right and do that? But if this were Democrats pushing through another $5 trillion, we'd say, what the hell are you doing? If you don't stop the spending, we're going to run out of money.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
From marshmallow festivals to fireworks on the shore. No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. During Hubler's Freedom to Drive, shop any of our 13 locations and choose from Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and more. Over 2,000 vehicles. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles during our Freedom to Drive. Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Guys, don't waste time and money with low-quality online TRT that charges you over $100 just to start. Visit the TRT experts at the Low T Center for a free consultation and a free test. Treatment is personalized to your body, and most major insurances accept it. Looking to lose weight? Get a free B12 shot when you start prescription treatment right now at the Low T Center. Offer is limited, but book right now. FixMyLowT.com. That's FixMyLowT.com.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
Jane Fergus. Police in Minnesota have identified 57-year-old Vance Bolter as the suspect in the shooting of 2 Democratic lawmakers and their spouses today, saying he was pretending to be a cop.
They say he was dressed as an officer. They exchanged gunfire at one point, and then the shooter managed to escape and run away.
It's Fox's Brooke Taylor. Anti-Trump No Kings demonstrations happening today across the country, including Philadelphia.
I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people did and voted for this person.
President Trump this week said he doesn't feel like a king because he has to follow the law to, quote, get stuff approved. America's listening to Fox News.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Delaware County Fairgrounds in Muncie. The best dealers in the region will be at the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Delaware County Fairgrounds in Muncie. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
Road trip! This summer at Tire Discounters, your tires are your passport to savings, because you're driving to Paris,
Texas,
then it's off to Rome,
Georgia,
and you'll be kissing the Blarney Stone in Dublin,
Ohio.
Right now, save up to $434 when you buy 4 tires, and that includes a free alignment and oil change. Stop at Tire Discounters before you see the world.
The month of May has raced by at Sundown Gardens in Miss M's Home and Garden. Denny Smith here. The June sales are now on. Come shop the great high-quality products at both garden centers and save big this week. It's 20% off annuals and 30% off pottery at both locations. And if you're shopping for Poly Patio Furniture, visit Miss M's in Bargersville for 20% off their patio furniture. Visit Sundown Gardens at 186th Street, Spring Mill Road in Westfield, or Miss M's on State Road 135 in Bargersville.
Summertime's here, so get a hot summertime deal at Tom Roush Lincoln. Get Lincoln's employee pricing on most all new Lincolns. Get up to $20,000 off select 2024 Navigators. Up to $8,000 off select 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Come and see why the Roush family has served the community for over 53 years at Tom Roush Lincoln.
Navigator MSRP 105,195. Nautilus MSRP 60,195. 2025 Navigators excluded from employee pricing. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for complete offer details.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. I'm going to give you a little bit of an update on this policy change that now allows a gun store, a firearms retailer, or federal firearms licensee, as we call them, to actually accept your license to carry handgun, provided it was issued within the last 5 years. Now, this is true of a lifetime issued within the previous 5 years, or any 5-year license, which by definition was issued within the last 5 years. The gun store can, but doesn't have to, accept that in lieu of a background check through NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System run by the FBI out of West Virginia. But I'll tell you what, before I give you that update, let's go to the phone lines. And we've got several people on hold. Let's go to Aaron has called. Aaron, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hi, Guy, can you hear me?
You betcha.
Okay, thank you so much for taking my call.
Sure.
And I just want to preface it by saying that I'm not proud of what I'm about to say. And so I just was hoping to get your advice. Back in April, I was pulled over for an OWI, and it was in early April. I had 2 guns with me in the car. I had one in my purse, and I had one in my glove compartment, so they took those. And I still haven't been charged yet, but it's my understanding that because it hasn't been 7 years since my prior OWI, I'm going to receive a level 6 felony charge. And so I was just wondering, A, am I ever going to see those guns again? And B, if and when I do get charged with the felony, will I be able to own a gun at all?
Well, it's a great question, Aaron. And listen, I don't handle OWI cases, but I can certainly answer your questions regarding the guns. Oh, you know what? I meant to ask you a question. What county was this in?
It was Delaware.
Okay, well, that's actually a good thing. I'm really glad that it wasn't here in Marion County, because that makes getting a gun back from the Marion County Property Room, that makes the whole issue of getting your gun back dramatically more difficult and more complicated if it's in Marion County, because the Marion County prosecutor or Marion County property room in the Marion County, the IMPD, I should say, who run the property room. This is where I'm very critical of our local police because they have policies that are just completely, I think, illegal, and I'm likely to file a lawsuit here sooner than later. But let me answer your questions. The easy one is if you do get a felony conviction out of this OWI, and by the way, people say DUI for driving under the influence. The crime under Indiana law is actually called operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, so operating while intoxicated. So most lawyers will say OWI, just not to nitpick, just tell you why I use that term. But if you do end up getting the OWI felony, because it was the second one within 7 years, then federal law says today that you cannot possess a firearm with any felony conviction, even though it's nonviolent. There is now a way to get your rights back under federal law. And after 8 years, and this isn't very, you sound like a young person, so 8 years I'm sure sounds like a very, very long time. But after 8 years, you can actually expunge a conviction like an OWI felony and get that off your record and get your rights restored. But the immediate answer to your question is if you get a felony conviction, federal law says any felony today, and by the way, this is being challenged in the courts, and I would like to see this turned around. There are lawsuits out there that say the federal law that says even nonviolent felonies result in the loss of your constitutional rights. There are challenges to that. Nothing in Indiana or in the federal courts that govern Indiana, but I'd like to see that overturned. But the short answer for today is yes, a felony conviction will prevent you from possessing a gun. And they likely will not release those guns to you if you end up with a felony conviction. They certainly won't release them to you if you have a pending felony. It sounds like they haven't necessarily filed the charges yet. And for something relatively simple like an OWI, that may be good news in the sense that there may be a problem with a chemical test. They may be having issues, I don't know, with the officer being available to substantiate the OWI. That is the breathalyzer results. I don't know. There could be any number of glitches that have prevented them from filing those charges because that's a long time if it was back in April, again, for something simple like an OWI. But if they do charge you and you have a pending felony, it's unlikely that you'll see those guns anytime soon. Let's go back to the phone lines, and Casey is called. Casey, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Yeah. I've got a question about that, the gun permit deal. Did the ATF tell you why that the lifetime won't work and that you have to have gotten the permit in the last 5 years?
Well, we didn't have to discuss that part, Casey, because I know why. And that is the idea is that the license will be acceptable in lieu of a background check if your background check to obtain the license was done relatively recently. In other words, like my lifetime is 20 years old. So the likelihood that whatever the likelihood is that I committed some crime or something else happened, like I am now, say hypothetically subject to a domestic violence order of protection, or was adjudicated to be mentally ill and a danger to myself or others, or was found to be dangerous in a red flag case. I mean, there are all these different things, dishonorable discharge from the military. I was never in the military. But the idea is that the longer it is between the time you pass the background check to obtain your license and the time you're buying the gun, the more likely it is that in the interim, you did something that prevent you from being a legal gun owner. And so the idea is that, and I'm frankly surprised that it's okay at 5 years. I'm not surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they shrunk it down to 3 or 2 or something ridiculous like that. Because again, it reduces the likelihood that you've been convicted of a crime or something else has happened to you since you passed the background check to get the gun license, the handgun license, and the time that you're buying the gun. So that's why there's the 5-year hook. And frankly, I understand that logic. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought if you got into trouble, then they would have revoked your lifetime license.
Well, sometimes, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And I've seen this happen either way, Casey. The state police do cross references between new convictions and new entries into the NICS database, things like a domestic violence order of protection and whatnot. But they don't always catch them. And frankly, I've had people that, for instance, got convicted of something like battery, and the victim was an ex-girlfriend or a husband or something along those lines that's defined as a family or household member. And if it's something like battery that involves the use of physical force and the victim was a family or household member, that's actually a crime of domestic violence. And even though it's not the specific crime of domestic battery, that actually makes you a prohibited person. Indiana law is right on point. You cannot possess a gun if you have a conviction for a crime of domestic violence. Not just the specific crime of domestic battery. I actually taught a continuing legal education course on this exact topic on Thursday. And sometimes the state police have taken, and I understand because it's not an easy thing to figure out because you have to figure out who the victim of the crime was. You can see that, somebody was convicted of battery, but it only makes you a prohibited possessor if the victim was a family or household member. So sometimes it can take years. I've had people call me and all upset saying, I got a certified letter from the state police that says my license is suspended pending a hearing. And I have no idea because nothing's happened to me recently, that could possibly cause me to lose my 2A rights. And I'll say, okay, well, what do you have on your record? Well, I have this misdemeanor battery from 10 years ago, or, whenever. Okay, who was the victim of, or what was the well, I'll say, they say I have this old misdemeanor. Let me back up. And I'll go, okay, what was the crime? Battery. All right. Who was the victim of the battery? And they'll challenge me on that a lot of times. What does it matter who the victim was? Well, it matters a lot because the victim is a family or household member, then that's a crime of domestic violence. Well, yeah, it was my ex-live-in girlfriend. Okay, that's what's going on. The state police, it may have taken them a while, but doing some cross-reference, they figured it out that the victim of your battery was a family or household member. That makes it a crime of domestic violence, and you're a prohibited person. And I just give you that example to say that, yes, they do revoke your license, but let's say they've revoked your license. The state police have suspended your license pending a hearing, or they've permanently revoked it. Well, they'll send you a letter that says you're supposed to mail your license in, surrender it to the state police. What if you just don't do that? So you've had your license suspended or revoked. And frankly, this is a big criticism of the current system that's been approved by ATF, that if you present an unexpired license to carry, you can buy a gun. There is currently no way for a firearms retailer, an FFL, federal firearms licensee, to verify that your license is still valid. There's not a phone number. There's not a database. And this is because Indiana law actually requires the state police to keep the database information of who has a license and who doesn't, to keep that confidential. And we've even strengthened that statute in recent years. So you may have had your license suspended or revoked, but you still have the physical license. You present that, and there's no way for that FFL to determine that license is suspended or revoked, and they can legally sell you that gun. That's another reason why I understand the 5-year limitation, because it's less likely something like that has happened the shorter the time period is between when you passed your background check and when you're buying that gun. So it's not a perfect system. Everybody recognizes that, but that's some of the rationale that goes into it. I am way past the 3/4 hour. We're going to get a very short segment when we come back, but it was a great question from Casey, and I'm sure a lot of people had the same question, so I wanted to get into some detail on that. We'll come back after this break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Life moves fast.
We move fast.
Get moving fast.
It's not business as usual.
So does the news.
I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane.
Decisions made today
The United States and China announcing a 90-day pause.
could impact you tomorrow.
Goldman Sachs adjusting its 2025 economic outlook.
The issues, some solutions.
What's next?
I'll let you know at the appropriate time. Gotta stay tuned.
We're already tracking it.
Strong borders.
Stay in the know while you're on the go on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for the Relford Law Office. You know, when Aaron called just now, we were talking a little bit about expungement and the restoration of rights. Even if you have a federal conviction for a felony, there now is a restoration process for a lot of convictions on your record. We can still restore your gun rights under federal law. That's new. That's a new development, and we're doing several of those for people. Yeah, you also have a state court conviction for a felony. Not all felonies can be expunged, but many of them can, particularly the nonviolent ones. You need 8 years with a clean criminal history, and we can potentially expunge that off your record and restore your gun rights. We do those often. We enjoy doing them. It's great when somebody has earned the right to have their firearms restored, their right to possess firearms restored. Is very satisfying as a lawyer to be able to do that for folks. So if that applies to you or a friend or a family member, just contact us through relfordlaw.com. We'd be glad to discuss in a free consultation whether we can help restore your gun rights if you've lost those because of something on your record. Contact us through relfordlaw.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
With everything going on, it may be hard to imagine one more thing to worry about. But clothes dryers cause thousands of house fires every year. And dirty ductwork in your home is filling the air you breathe with pollutants and allergens. Should you worry? Not if you contact Safe Dryer and Air Duct Solutions, a locally owned, veteran-operated business offering fast, reliable duct and dryer vent cleaning services, making your home safer and your air healthier. WIBC listeners save 10% off any service. One less thing to worry about. Go to safedads.net.
Hey, Wings Etc. fans, guess what? June 9th through 15th is Wings Schooner Madness. We're rolling back prices on award-winning wings and big ice cold schooners to just 59 cents for wings and $5 for domestic schooners. Dine in only. Mark your calendars for June 9th through 15th and get great deals on wings and domestic schooners when you dine in for Wings Schooner Madness. June 9th through 15th, only at your local Wings Etc. Wings Etc. Grill and Pub with 15 Central Indiana locations. Online at wingsetc.com.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
It's not just adults who can feel stressed out. Our children feel stressed too. I'm Tammy Silverman of Indiana Youth Institute. Between school demands, maintaining friendships, and expectations from adults, it's no wonder that children sometimes feel stressed out. But unlike adults, experts say children may not be able to recognize stress or know how to cope. Luckily, you can help your child handle the challenges they're facing. Start by making yourself available to talk and be a good listener. Let your child express their views, and when you respond, focus on your child's feelings rather than your own. You can also ask your child what they need from you, whether it's advice or help solving a problem. But if stress is still overwhelming, experts recommend you reach out to a licensed mental health professional to make sure your child gets the support they need and deserve. This Kids Count Minute is a message from Indiana Youth Institute. For more parent tips, visit IYI.org.
Kids count on you.
Busy day? No problem. The WIBC Mashup podcast catches you up with standout moments from your favorite shows. Fresh episodes every weekday. One click, all the good stuff. Get your daily fix. Search WIBC Mashup wherever you get your podcasts. Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. As I mentioned, got a real short segment here. Went a little long in the last one. But by the way, I want to give a little shout out to the folks on the YouTube chat. You can always follow the show on YouTube and follow with a video. As I always say, I'm not much to look at, but you can check out the video. I think the much better part than the video is participating in the YouTube chat. So if you go to YouTube, just search for 93 WIBC, and then the first thing that ought to come up when I'm on live is the Gun Guy Show. You can click on that and participate. We'd love to have you on there. It's hard to do while I'm doing live radio, but during breaks and whatnot, I try to see what folks are talking about there on the chat. I can certainly respond when possible. There are times when people ask questions on there rather than calling in. A little more convenient, or if you're shy and don't want to go on the radio, you can pose questions on the YouTube chat if I'm able to get over and figure out what those are, and often I respond to those as well during the show. So you're welcome to do that. When we come back to start the second hour, I am going to give this update on my conversation with the ATF and additional information I've learned on this new system. It's a new approval. A lot of people have said, oh, the law changed. No, the law didn't change, but ATF has approved the purchase of a gun showing your license to carry. I'll get a little more detail on that when we come back. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Turning 65, new to Medicare, or just moved? If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, a DSNP, may give you the extra benefits you're looking for. A DSNP helps cover things like prescriptions and checkups, but it also helps pay for essentials too. With a Humana DSNP, you get $225 a month for eligible groceries, rent, utilities, and more. Plus, whatever you don't spend carries over to the next month. You may even get benefits like $0 copays on routine prescriptions, plus routine dental, vision, or hearing coverage. All of this could make a difference for your health and wallet. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a coordinated care HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the Indiana Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply.
Home sales activity is good, not great. So many homes, if improperly marketed, are sitting on the market. Hiring the wrong sales agent will cost you time and money. Hire the expert who maximizes equity and sells fast. The expert realtor I recommend is Mark Dietl. Perhaps you're worried you need costly repairs or upgrades to sell your home. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what Luke and Emma in Franklin had to say about working with Mark Dietl. We found the perfect piece of land and began building our new dream home, but we needed to sell our old place at the right price to fund the dream. We hired the Mark Dietl team and got multiple offers in the first weekend, closed in 25 days, and they negotiated for us to stay while we completed our new place. Selling was stress-free and profitable with Mark Dietl. Call the local Indianapolis agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietl at 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietl.com. That's Mark, DIETEL.com.
Beck Toyota has been sold to the Hubler Automotive Group, and this is your best chance to save before the grand opening of Hubler Toyota. Choose from Camrys, Corollas, Highlanders, Tundras, and more. Lease a new 2025 Toyota RAV4, just $349 per month. Or a new Tacoma, $299 per month. So if you've been turned away due to the crowds, come back. This is your best chance to save before the grand opening of Hubler Toyota. Don't miss it on US 31 South in Indianapolis, across from Hubler Chevrolet. Visit HublerToyota.com. New RAV4s, $349 per month. Or new Tacomas, $299 per month. All offers end June 30th. Select models, approved credit, plus tax tag title license, $199 dealer doc, RAV4 model 4432, Tacoma model 7540, 36 months, $29.99 due, 0 security, 10,000 annual miles, 15 cents per mile thereafter.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News. 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Named. Fox News, I'm Jane Fergus. Police in Minnesota have identified 57-year-old Vance Bolter as a suspect in the shootings of two Minnesota state lawmakers and their spouses. Residents in the area are facing a shelter-in-place order as a manhunt for him continues. Here's Fox's Connor Hansen.
Former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were murdered by a suspect authorities say was impersonating a police officer. In a related shooting, Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were shot in Champlin, Minnesota. Authorities said that one suspect shot both politicians and their spouses. The suspect is on the loose. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called the shooting an act of targeted violence while remembering Hortman.
And Governor Walz says he is cautiously optimistic about State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, who are still in the hospital. American forces helped shoot down rockets headed for Israel after Israel launched a coordinated strike on Iran's nuclear program. Fox's Mark Meredith is at the White House with more.
U.S. officials confirming that they are assisting Israel in its defense from these Iranian attacks, but the administration also keeping out hope that there's a possibility that both sides could de-escalate the situation, while at the same time getting Iran to completely abandon its nuclear program. The Wall Street Journal had a chance to speak with President Trump as he spoke to many outlets on Friday by phone. Journal asked him how much of a heads up the president had about all this. He said, heads up, it wasn't a heads up. I knew it was going on. What was going on? The president says he has repeatedly urged Iran to make a deal. Iran's top diplomat says talks with the U.S., though, are, quote, unjustifiable.
Iran claims 70 people are dead and 300 wounded in Israel's strikes on Iran's nuclear programs and missile facilities. America's listening to Fox News.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Janice Dean, Fox News senior meteorologist and host of the Janice Dean podcast. Join me every Sunday as I focus on stories of hope and people who are truly rays of sunshine in their community and across the world. Be sure to subscribe to the Janice Dean podcast at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to spread the sunshine.
America's listening to Fox News. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
This is Jason Chaffetz from the Jason in the House podcast. Join me every Monday to dive deeper into the latest political headlines and chat with remarkable guests to hear their take on American life, politics, and entertainment. And don't forget, there's always somebody doing something stupid somewhere.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcast.com
or wherever you download podcasts.
Must listen to podcasts from Fox News Audio.
The Army hosting a parade.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Multiple decades in prison. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. An Indianapolis couple receiving their prison sentences on Friday for their involvement in the horrific murder of 1-year-old Oakley Snow. The girl was taken by Roan Waters and Madison Marshall from her biological father's home in Oklahoma, brought to Indiana before being killed by Waters and then left in a dresser drawer inside an abandoned building. Chief Trial Deputy with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, Dan Cicchini.
I mean, it's a tragedy. The facts are horrifying. The fact that two adults who had the care of this child would let these things happen to her and do these things to her is just terrifying.
Waters gets 45 years behind bars after pleading guilty to multiple charges, including neglect resulting in death. Marshall pleaded guilty to neglect of a dependent and will spend the next 25 years in prison. Forgery and corrupt business influence are two of the many charges facing a man from Greentown. John Herrick reports.
Police have been investigating a man named Dustin Eckelbarger for the last 8 months.
The preliminary investigation revealed that Mr. Eckelbarger, while working as a salesman at a local farm equipment store, engaged in fraudulent activities by buying, selling, and trading equipment to farmers across northern Indiana.
State Police Sergeant Stephen Glass says Eckelbarger fabricated more than $750,000 worth of purchase orders and secured other business loans using the names of farmers. He was caught and arrested on Wednesday. John Herrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Charges are now dismissed for 3 men who are accused of putting live cats in a trash compactor. John Lipscomb, Travis McKay, and Arlen Hochstetler were each charged this week with torturing or mutilating a vertebrate animal. They work at Jayco RV Company in Middlebury. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Showers will exit early on, but cloudy skies remain. Low temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Mostly cloudy to partly cloudy skies for Father's Day. There is an isolated chance mainly south of I-70. Highs in the low 80s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
America respects our first responders and veterans, the brave whose business is taking action when calamity strikes. It's dangerous work, often surrounded by sirens, shouting, even gunfire, so hearing loss is probable. First responders can turn to Relay Indiana. If you have trouble hearing on the telephone, visit RelayIndiana.com for voice recognition technology phones that allow the hearing impaired to have normal phone conversations. And there's loaned equipment for those who qualify. Get clarity back on the phone. Visit RelayIndiana.com.
Tony Katz here for Premier Arms in Brownsburg, Central Indiana's premier arms dealer. They have over 1,200 firearms in stock, the largest selection of used firearms in the area, from pre-Civil War to modern guns. Premier Arms has always put their customers ahead of their profits. They always have ammunition available when a customer buys a firearm. Everyone can find what they're looking for at Premier Arms in Brownsburg, 3754 South Green Street. Find them online at premierarms.com. Premierarms.com. Tell them Tony Katz sent you.
Emmer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, welcome back to hour number 2 here, the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you what, before we get into a bit of an update on the new policy where you can buy a gun with your license to carry in lieu of a background check. Let's go back to the phone lines because we've had some people on hold for quite a while. John has called in. John, welcome to the Gun Guy Show. John, you with us, brother? 3, 2, 1. John, man, you missed out. Let's go back to the phone lines. Chris has called. Chris, welcome to the Gun Guy Show. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Otis. I'm just misreading it. Producer Jack typed it very clearly, and I just couldn't read. So it says Otis. Otis, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Yeah, I got a question. In situations like we had in the 2020, with our downtown riot, as well as in other cities, and, the potential of some sort of a misdeed going on today, the police are sworn to protect life, limb, and property, and irrespective of just about anything else. Why is it that in such situations when they occur, don't the police just simply take it on themselves instead of wasting time trying to find out where a drunken mayor is or whatever other possibility with relation to getting permission to go ahead and cure or take care of the
yeah, Otis, I think I know where you're going, buddy. Listen, I think that under this administration, that is the Hogsett administration in Indianapolis, Marion County, I really think that our officers haven't felt like the administration has their backs. I'm not entirely sure that they felt like the last police chief had the officers' backs, and we actually saw police officers get charged with crimes who were trying to arrest violent protesters or rioters, where the police got charged for using force against people who were resisting arrest. And when you have that kind of a culture and officers don't feel like they're getting the support, like because the administration doesn't have their back, and in fact, where the administration will throw them under the bus, and not the first time we've seen the Hogsett administration throw IMPD officers under the bus, where they came out after what was ruled to be a justified shooting of a gentleman named Aaron Bailey. The IMPD officers were cleared. But the city turned around and paid those people hundreds of thousands of dollars as survivors. And Hogsett was critical of the officers who were involved in what was ruled to be a completely justified shooting. So, listen, I don't blame any officer for being reluctant, for being a little hesitant to jump in and do their job to protect, people or property if they feel like they're going to be made the bad guy by their own bosses in the current administration. And that was one of the reasons we wanted to bring that issue up, although maybe a little indirectly, with FOP President Rick Snyder, is to and I asked him, I wasn't all that indirect. I said, do you feel like officers have the back, feel like officers feel like the current administration has their back and their support to do their jobs so that they feel more empowered? And we got a pretty emphatic yes answer to that question. So I'm hoping that's the case. And I think, Otis, that was answer to your question. Let's go back to the phone lines. And Anthony has called in. Anthony Wayne. Oh, I know Anthony Wayne. We're buddies on Twitter. Anthony follows me, and we've had a good conversation. Anthony, I think you have some additional tips. You, like I have gone through the process of getting a new 5-year license. You can avail yourself of this new NICS exempt purchase program from ATF. So I think you have some tips on that.
Yeah, happy 250th Army birthday. I'm a vet, so anyway.
Awesome. And thank you for your service. Appreciate that.
It was a privilege. The first thing is that unlike you, I had electronic prints with the ISP on my lifetime, and so I called them, the phone number you provided, and that transfer of those prints to the new application was near instantaneous. I was able to call my local law enforcement, and I had to talk to them for a couple of minutes to kind of explain to them that it was being transferred. And he looked it right up about an hour later, and he said, "Oh, yeah, okay, we're ready to go." I wasn't able to get in there until later. And when I did, I had to kind of remind him of that because he had never seen somebody come in with transferred prints before. He was always used to getting the kind of a green card or something you get from Ident2Go. And he was people having to give them the card.
Well, it's a little slip that has like your application number, and there's some identification number from Ident2Go, because I had to get reprinted because I got my lifetime 20 years ago, which means I submitted the old paper prints. And hold on just a minute, Anthony, because I want to make sure people understand what we're talking about. And that is that your license to carry to allow you to do a NICS exempt purchase from a firearm retailer. And this assumes, by the way, that the retailer wants to do it, because it's totally up to them. If they want to put you through a NICS check as a condition of your purchase, they can do that. It's totally up to the dealer. But they can allow you to avoid essentially the delay associated, the inconvenience associated with doing a NICS check, and just buy the gun by showing your license. License has to have been issued within the last 5 years. So a lot of us who have lifetime licenses, because the Indiana statute, the licensing statute, specifically allows you to have both a lifetime and a 5-year. And applying for a 5-year has no effect. I've answered this question on social media a gazillion times. Has no effect to apply for a license or be issued a 5-year on your lifetime. Your lifetime's good for your lifetime. Applying for a 5-year isn't going to affect that. If when you got your lifetime, and this is Anthony's point, but I wanted to put it in context, if when you applied for your license, your lifetime license, you got printed electronically, the state police still have those electronic prints. When you then apply for your 5-year, because you want to be able to do the NICS exempt purchases, which I did as well. I did it the first day I found out about the program, applied right here from the computer in the studio. And if you apply for your 5-year and you submitted electronic prints for your lifetime application, then all you do is you call the Indiana State Police. And that number, by the way, is 317-232 8264. 317-232-8264. And I'll tell you what, I will charge a bit of a price if you follow me on Twitter or X and send me a PM or direct message on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I'll give you that number separately if you didn't catch it just now. Got to give me a follow first. But you call that number and say, hey, I just applied for my 5-year license. You already have my electronic prints from my lifetime license. Please transfer those prints to my new application. And as Anthony just told you, they do that instantaneously. Essentially, it was your experience, right, Anthony?
Yes, it was my experience with that. And it was like I called the PD about an hour later and had to talk to him a little bit to explain to him it was a transfer. He'd never seen that before. And he looked in and goes, wow, yeah, we're ready to go. Anytime you want to come. I couldn't get in there until a couple of days later. Now, the last thing is, and this is important, when you make an application for a license to carry, you will get an email back that has an application number.
Right.
And that number is very important. You will only see it in that email, as far as I know. You won't see it. It's not your license number. It won't be in the letter that delivers the license. You won't see it from the PD when they say, yeah, you've cleared our check. The only thing you'll see it in is that email, and you better keep track of that, because if you ever have to go back to the ISP to talk to them about your license, you need that application number. I had to replace my lifetime.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that includes getting a duplicate license, by the way.
Yeah, I had to replace my lifetime, which started breaking in half, and I had to go rooting around through some records to eventually find that. I knew it was somewhere, but I had to go rooting around for a while to find that application number, because you can't go anywhere on the ISP website without it.
Yeah, well, no, it's a good point, and a couple of great tips for folks, Anthony, which I greatly appreciate. I appreciate your comments on social media as well. I'll tell you what, we're at the quarter hour. We'll take a break. I will go into this discussion I had with ATF as we kind of wrap up that discussion and move on to other things when we come back. We've had great callers, and I don't know if oh, no, that's a different question. Jim is still on the line. We'll go right to Jim when we come back. Then we'll shift gears, get into some other issues after I give you the update on my conversation with ATF about this whole process. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Karine Jean-Pierre. Latest to put some tell-all book out there about the Biden White House and...
Oh, her horrible book. Karine Jean-Pierre and her horrible book. Ugh.
She's saying that she is leaving the Democrat Party now because of the way the party treated Joe Biden.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Rock Op Defense Solutions. You know, we've got a really high-end manufacturer of fighting rifles, AR-style rifles, right here in central Indiana, located in Avon. This is Rock Op Defense. They made a rifle for me. I made it into a 12.5-inch suppressed SBR. I work with them to select my optics, all the accessories that I wanted. And they did a fabulous job. And this is now the nicest. And I own several high-end ARs. This is now the nicest AR I own. It would be my absolute go-to if the proverbial, hits the fan. I'm grabbing my AR from Rock Op Defense Solutions. But they have a lot of other services as well besides just direct sales. If you're looking for a high-end AR, check them out. It's rock-opdefense.com. They also have upgrade services. They do Cerakoting and any number of other firearm-related services they'll provide you right there if you're interested in high-end, high-quality fighting rifles made right here in central Indiana. Check them out. They're my friends. I loved working with them, and I'm so proud of my rifle from Rock Op Defense Solutions. Check them out at rock-opdefense.com. That's rock-opdefense.com.
Change is always happening. It's part of life. And when it comes to music, change is all around us. Songs are rewritten. Classics are remixed. Bands and artists come and go. Even our taste in music changes. Here at Xfinity, we know there's still good in keeping some things the same. That's why we want to do our part with a 5-year price guarantee on our internet. It means no matter what changes, you get 5 years of the most reliable Wi-Fi with our best equipment included for a price that stays exactly the same. Surprised? Life is full of them. One internet price, 5 years, guaranteed. Learn more at xfinity.com/deals. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on OpenSignal Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report, August 2024.
From marshmallow festivals to fireworks on the shore. No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. During Hubler's Freedom to Drive, shop any of our 13 locations and choose from Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and more. Over 2,000 vehicles. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're headed this summer, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles during our Freedom to Drive. Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. But most people don't know they are infected. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you can still have hepatitis C, a serious liver disease that often has no symptoms. In fact, people can live with hepatitis C for decades without feeling or looking sick. But over time, hepatitis C can cause serious health problems, including liver damage, liver failure, or even liver cancer. Getting tested is the only way to know if you're infected with hepatitis C. That's why the CDC recommends everyone born from 1945 to 1965 get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments are available that can cure this disease. So talk to your doctor about getting tested. It could save your life. A message from the CDC.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
The Phone Ready quiz from the American Academy of Pediatrics will help you decide if you and your child are ready for their first phone. Go to healthychildren.org/phone ready quiz.
Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stop overdose.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you what, we've had Jim on hold forever, and I think he missed us the first time. Jim, are you there, buddy?
I'm still here.
All right. Do you have a question for us?
Yes, sir. 2 questions, actually.
All right.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Second,
you know, I never served in the military. I assume you mean the service I provide here on the radio.
Yes, sir.
All right.
First question, is a Molotov cocktail considered a lethal weapon?
Sure. Considered a deadly weapon? Absolutely. If it's capable of causing serious bodily injury, then 100% considered a serious, it's considered a deadly weapon. And in fact, I'm not so sure I wouldn't rather get shot than get doused with gasoline and set on fire, which is exactly what a Molotov cocktail does.
Okay, second question, dovetail to that. If we have riots here in the city and these guys decide to come marching past my doorstep and one of them walks over and decides to chuck a cocktail at my house, do I have the right to defend myself?
Well, if it's your house, our castle doctrine, Jim, is very clear on this point. And you want to look this up and read the whole statute. It's Indiana Code 35-41-3-2. and I believe it's subsection D is our Castle Doctrine, and it says that you can use reasonable force, including deadly force, to either prevent or terminate an unlawful attack on or entry into your dwelling. And we'll just stop right there. It goes on and talks about more from there, but we can stop right there for purposes of your question, because is throwing a Molotov cocktail at your home an attack on your home? 100% it is. Even in Marion County, with the prosecutor we have here, oh, hell yes. So can I use reasonable force, including deadly force, to prevent a Molotov cocktail coming sailing through my window? The answer to that unequivocally is yes. So thank you for your question, and I hope I answered it directly. Let's go back to the phone lines, and Burke has called. Burke, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
You're talking to me?
I am talking to you. What you got for us?
It's Dirk.
I'm sorry.
Make that clear. Yeah. Last year, walking in Marion County Fair, I was stopped from having my gun. They had metal detectors and everything, and I only know of State Fair being an exception. Is the county fairs accepted? Are they accepted?
You know, it's a great question, and I apologize for screwing your name up there too, Dirk. But here's how that works: the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act, which says that local governments may not regulate firearms, would normally prevent someone like a county fair from, it would prevent a county or a city or some unit of local government below the state. That's why this doesn't apply to the state fair, which is run by a state organization, that is the county fair board, the state fair board, excuse me. But a county fair, normally you would think, well, they're a unit of local government, and the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act says local governments cannot regulate firearms, so you would think a county would not be able to prohibit guns at the county fair. And that is generally true. However, the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act has an exception right there within it, which is that if an organizer, a private organizer or promoter of an event, leases property from a political subdivision, that means a unit of local government like a county or a city. But if an organizer or promoter of an event leases property from a political subdivision, a local government, then they, as the organizer or promoter of the event, can prohibit firearms on the property. And when we were debating in 2011 the Firearm Preemption Act, that was a proposal that arose out of some comments that Jimmy Irsay made, our recently departed owner of the Colts, who said, listen, I'm a 2A guy, you know, I support gun rights, I'm a gun owner, but I don't really want guns at Colts games, and so I don't want to have guns there. I want to be able to prohibit guns at Colts games, and since the city owns the stadium, if the city can't prevent guns, at the old RCA Dome or now Lucas Oil, then that's a problem for me because I don't want guns at Colts games. And so the legislators put into the Preemption Act what we call the Jimmy Irsay exception. I mean, just kind of those of us who were involved and around during the process kind of tongue-in-cheek call it that, because it allows a local owner or promoter or organizer of an event to prohibit firearms at their event. So a lot of counties have hired these fair promoters or fair organizers who basically for a fee will do all the contracting. They'll bring in the rides, they'll bring in the vendors, they'll bring in, lighting and all the stuff that's necessary for a county fair. So it's a private owner or promoter of an event that the county hires. And that's pretty much county by county. You don't necessarily know just from looking who's actually organizing that fair. Is it the county or is it a private organizer or promoter? If it's a private organizer or promoter, the answer to your question is yes, they can prohibit guns at the county fair. And I have a feeling that's what most of them anymore are doing. That's why the Marion County Fair, some others, they'll prohibit you from carrying your firearm in there. I think that's ridiculous. That would make me want to not go to the fair. It's one of the reasons I don't go to the annual state fair anymore, because I refuse to be at 38th and Fall Creek in Indianapolis without having the ability to protect myself and my family. I'm just not simply willing to do that. But that's the answer to your question. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and get into a break. We'll come back. I've been teasing this conversation I had with the ATF for a while, but then I do want to shift gears. Bo, I always enjoy taking your questions and your calls, so give us a call, 317-239-9393. Right now we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
The ownership has transferred to his daughters, taking over a family business of this magnitude, this much in the public eye. That's a whole different level of can't be easy. Massive shoes to fill. No one needs to tell you that. People absolutely embrace this franchise and what it means to the city, what it means to the state. Go get them. I truly hope it all works the way you want it to. Honestly, all the best.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
911, what's your emergency?
Por favor, necesito ayuda. Está orando y creo que me va a pegar otra vez.
I will get someone to speak with you. Please stay on the line.
Hola, tengo su ubicación. Ayuda está en camino.
Getting past a language barrier is critical when first responders help Hoosiers. That's why the State 911 Board provides special tools for non-English speaking citizens to communicate with emergency services.
Si estás en peligro, aunque no hables inglés, podrás recibir ayuda en una emergencia rápidamente.
All Indiana 911 centers began offering translation services in over 240 languages in 2019. Now, people can send text messages for help in their native language to 911 and receive a translated text back from the dispatcher. It's of great help to the deaf and speech impaired and to those in select dangerous situations.
Cuando llame o envíe un texto al 911, un servicio de traducción se asegurará que entiendan lo que está diciendo.
For more information, visit in911.net.
Gracias.
911. Before you text, voice is best.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students. We see say for each other.
I see say because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting. A why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Fox News, I'm Tom Graham. Two Minnesota state lawmakers and their spouses were shot early today. One couple has died, the other wounded. What's being called political violence. A manhunt is underway for the suspect.
Police have identified this shooter as 57-year-old Vance Boatler. So police say that he was dressed in a fake police uniform. He even had a badge, a vest, a taser, and that is how police say he managed to get inside of the home.
Fox's Brooke Taylor. Protest underway in several cities, many voicing their opposition to President Trump during what's being called No Kings rallies.
Today we are just advocating. We are marching. No king in the United States, no king in our cities, no king in our states.
Protest coincides with the military parade in Washington. It's the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. It's also President Trump's 79th birthday. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey guys, it's Rob from my friends at Universal Windows Direct. Right now, it's their home improvement season sale. What an incredible deal going on with Universal Windows Direct. If you've been thinking about upgrading your windows, now is the time to act. You can get payments as low as $99 a month or no payments and no interest for an entire year. This gives you a full year to enjoy the comfort, savings, and curb appeal before you ever make a payment. Universal Windows Direct will come out to your home and do a free in-home window and energy assessment so you can see exactly where your home's losing energy and how much you could be saving. Give my friends at Universal Windows Direct a call. Schedule your free assessment and take the first step towards a more comfortable, energy-efficient home. Call today, 317-659-7574. 317-659-7574. Payments as low as $99 a month or no payments and no interest for an entire year. Universal Windows Direct. UniversalWindowsDirect.com, 317-659-7574.
Turning 65, new to Medicare, or just moved? If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, a DSNP, may give you the extra benefits you're looking for. A DSNP helps cover things like prescriptions and checkups, but it also helps pay for essentials too. With a Humana DSNP, you get $225 a month for eligible groceries, rent, utilities, and more. Plus, whatever you don't spend carries over to the next month. You may even get benefits like $0 copays on routine prescriptions, plus routine dental, vision, or hearing coverage. All of this could make a difference for your health and wallet. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a coordinated care HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the Indiana Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'm going to talk a little bit about this call I had with ATF. And first of all, kudos to ATF for being willing to have this conversation with me. There's an email on the posting that ATF put out around May 23rd where they announced this program where they had updated the listing of states where you could show your license to carry and use that in lieu of a background check. And lo and behold, Indiana appears on there as a state where you can do exactly that. And immediately confusion reigned. I mean, FFLs had no heads up on this. I contacted the state police who issued the licenses and said, hey, do you folks know anything about this? And as ATF told you this is in place, and the folks that I talked to at Indiana State Police said, we haven't heard a word. And I don't know if my contacting them was the first they'd heard of it, but they hadn't heard anything from ATF. And gun stores, upon getting inquiries about this from me or hearing about it from me on the radio or having customers walk in and ask them about it, most gun stores had never heard anything about it except for receiving this quote-unquote open letter saying, yes, now the following states can accept this, but there was nothing specific to Indiana. And a lot of Indiana FFLs immediately, understandably, were saying, well, hell, I'm not going to participate in this. I'm not comfortable participating in this because I haven't heard anything from ATF. And a lot of them contacted their IOIs. IOI, if that's not a term that you've heard before, I don't think I've used it here on the show, that's Industry Operations Investigator. And gun stores typically have an IOI or two that have responsibility for their store in their region. And your IOI is somebody that if you're an FFL, you're a gun store, a retailer, you can call them, and then they're typically the people, too, that come in and do inspections or audits. They'll come in and they'll make sure the paperwork's all up to date and that you can account for, everything that's come in, either in your inventory or with a 4473 form that the purchaser fills out when they come in to buy. Because if something has come in and you have to register that in what's called your A&D log, your acquisitions and disposition log, if you're a gun store, if it comes in, you've got to log it, and you log it when it goes out. And if it's in your acquisition log, or certainly if it shows up in the records of who your distributors or your manufacturers, what they've said they've sent to you, then it better be in your A&D log, and it better either be in your inventory, or you better have a 4473 to account for where it went. And that's what IOIs do. And they're I don't want to call them bean counters because that sounds derogatory, but they're more the accountant types, and they're more the people that can answer questions and facilitate the retailer staying in business and complying with the rules while they do. Now, that, by the way, went through a fundamental change during the Biden administration, when a lot of IOIs were told specifically by the Biden administration that they should find any excuse whatsoever to put gun stores out of business. It was what Biden called the zero tolerance policy, which was a made-up term to say that the IOIs were supposed to go out and find any excuse to tag some poor local business off base to go, oh, look, your paperwork's not in line, or you didn't stamp this the correct way, or you didn't date this in the right way, or this record wasn't stored in the right way, and try to revoke their license. And that's what Biden was doing left and right. And soon after President Trump was elected, they suspended the so-called zero tolerance policy, and IOIs went back, at least their orders were, to go back to what they'd done traditionally, which is try to keep retailers in business, try to keep them on the right side of the law. But in the context of this change where retailers can accept a license to carry if it was issued within the previous 5 years, a lot of FFLs reached out to their IOIs, and the IOIs had no idea. They were like, I haven't heard anything about this. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know of any such program in Indiana. That can't be right. And a lot of FFLs, a lot of gun store owners are going, well, hell, last thing I'm going to do is participate in the program when my ATF contact, that is that my IOI, knows nothing about it. And I talked to gun shops who told me specifically, no, I talked to 2 different IOIs. Neither one of them knew anything about this. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk to the ATF about. And the gentleman I talked to, who was in industry operations, and I think part of his job was specifically interfacing with the public, and he was really good in this conversation. I really give him a lot of kudos, and I give ATF a lot of kudos for being, I think, very transparent in this process. I've been as critical of ATF as I could possibly be over the years. I have seen ATF, I think, commit absolute crimes against citizens. But typically that's enforcement, not industry operations. And this gentleman was incredibly transparent, and he said, you know what? The people who made the decision to update that list to include Indiana and some other states, by the way, Indiana is not the only state that got added to the list of what are called Brady exempt or NICS exempt states, where the retailers can accept a gun license in lieu of a background check. The people who made the decision to add Indiana and some other states to that list were not within industry operations and didn't do a particularly good job of telling industry operations within ATF, and they're the people who interface with the retailers, of telling the industry operations that this was even going to happen. And so a lot of IOIs were caught completely off guard, and when retailers were calling their ATF contact, they're going, oh, hell, I don't know what you're talking about. And then separately, they did a lousy job as well of contacting, and again, this gentleman was completely transparent about this. It was impressive to me that they could be this transparent. He said, we also did a lousy job of communicating beforehand because industry operations wasn't part of the process. They're the ones that also interface with people like the Indiana State Police to tell them this is coming. Because another huge source of confusion was the fact that the Indiana State Police, until, as far as I could tell, Thursday or Friday of this week, still said on their website that an Indiana license to carry does not qualify or is not accepted as a substitute for a NICS background check as part of a gun purchase. The state police said specifically, nope, that's up to the ATF. They have to certify it as being NICS exempt. They haven't done that yet, so you cannot use your license to carry in Indiana, either 5-year or otherwise, for a NICS exempt purchase. And it said that on state police. So I had people on social media saying, well, my gun store says that they looked at the state police website that says, nope, a 5-year license is not good for this NICS exempt purchase, so they're not going to do anything the state police says is illegal. And ATF is the cause of all of that because ATF didn't reach out to state police to tell them this was coming on, again, effective May 23rd. And state police then could have updated their website and been, part of the solution, not a source of confusion through no fault of the good folks at Indiana State Police. And so all that came together, and then in the meantime, the person was able to confirm for me, yes, it's true. If they choose to, gun stores in Indiana can accept your license. Yes, it's true that what they need to do is still have the customer fill out the 4473 form, but they do not have to submit the information off the 4473 to NICS, to the FBI for a background check. That is a NICS exempt sale. They just have to record the license information, that is the license number and the date of issue, on the 4473, or make a copy of it and attach it to the 4473 and store that with the 4473 form. And if all that's done, the firearm retailer, the FFL, is acting absolutely within the law, and they're not going to get any hassle from ATF on that basis. And so they confirmed all of that, and they gave me some background as to why this was not particularly well launched and why there was a lot of confusion for it at the beginning of the process. But that's where we are, and I'm glad I was able to discuss that update. I was glad to have the conversation so I can pass that information on to you. Right now, we're taking a break. We'll come back for the last segment of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
How was your trip?
Yeah, I completely checked out as I was approaching Indiana, and I was getting re-familiar with everything that had been going on. So the lieutenant governor said something controversial. The secretary of state's on another trip in a foreign country, and we have another state rep that allegedly had a cocktail or two and got behind the wheel. So pretty much status quo.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the law offices of Guy Relford. You know, one thing we do that we enjoy doing and do a lot of is restore people's gun rights. If you have a felony conviction, or if this applies to a family member or a friend, certainly pass this on. But we can restore gun rights after people have lost their rights for a lot of different reasons, whether that's a felony conviction or conviction for a crime of domestic violence. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times we can expunge that off your record or file a restoration where we can restore your rights and allow you to exercise your Second Amendment rights again. And it's something we really enjoy doing, and we'd love to discuss that with you if you're at all interested. So you can contact the law office through the website. It's relfordlaw.com. Be glad to give you a free consultation on the phone. You can come by the office and discuss whether we can help you and your situation as well. So contact us through the website. That's relfordlaw.com.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Everyone is talking about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their transformation. Like your neighbor Dennis.
I was in the process of refinishing my garage and, trying to turn it into a man cave. So I started searching, online, and I ran across Galaxy.
Galaxy Concrete Coatings is not epoxy. It's better.
First thing I wanted to do initially is I wanted to repair where the concrete had eroded. They said they could do that. I said, well, heck, let me go ahead and get the entire floor covered.
Commercial or residential, 4 times stronger than epoxy, and it comes with a lifetime warranty.
They were so courteous and respectful of the home and the property. And when they're done, they cleaned up, picked up, swept up. It was like they were never there.
Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com now. That's Galaxy Concrete Coatings. And remember to like us on Facebook. Galaxy Concrete Coatings. We're out of this world.
I would recommend Galaxy over any other competitor, hands down. You're going to be taken care of and you're going to be satisfied. These guys know what they're doing.
Guys, don't waste time and money with low-quality online TRT that charges you over $100 just to start. Visit the TRT experts at the Low T Center for a free consultation and a free test. Treatment is personalized to your body, and most major insurances accept it. Looking to lose weight? Get a free B12 shot when you start prescription treatment right now at the Low T Center. Offer is limited, but book right now. FixMyLowT.com. That's FixMyLowT.com.
The month of May is raced by at Miss M's Home and Garden and Sundown Gardens. JMV here. The June sales are on now. Shop the great high-quality products at both garden centers and save big this week. 20% off annuals and 30% off pottery at both locations. If you're shopping for Poly Patio Furniture, visit Miss M's in Bargersville. For 20% off their patio furniture, Miss M's on State Road 135 in Bargersville. That's Sundown Gardens at 186th and Spring Mill Road in Westfield. Tell them JMV sent you.
Hello, this is Don Steffi, Executive Director for the Indianapolis Ballet, and I want to personally thank everyone who made this past season such a wonderful success. Whether single-ticket buyers, subscribers, donors, volunteers, or corporate and foundation supporters, a sincere thank you is extended to you all from our board, staff, and dancers. Let's have another dance together next year, shall we? As we present a new season of great performances by your Indianapolis Ballet. Thank you.
Tired of digging through noise to find real news? Go straight to WIBC.com. Local stories, statewide impact, national headlines, info that matters. When news breaks, WIBC.com is already on it. Stay on the know while you're on the go. The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for our last segment here on today's The Gun Guy Show. You know, as I've talked about here on the show, the components of the Hearing Protection Act, which would take suppressors, what a lot of folks call silencers, frankly, what federal law calls silencers or firearm mufflers. But the Hearing Protection Act would take suppressors out of the NFA, the National Firearms Act, meaning you wouldn't have to pay a $200 tax, go through a separate background check and registration process that you currently have to go through, and you could buy them just like a regular firearm. And by the way, how cool, that would also include being able to go in, just show your license to carry in Indiana, and if your FFL wants to participate in this program, show your license. Compared to, I mean, my first suppressor, it took 11 months for my purchase through what's called an ATF Form 4. It took 11 months for that to be approved. Now, lately, they've gone a lot faster. I bought several suppressors here in the last 6 months or so where it's taken less than a week. So they've gotten better. But how cool would it be to just show your license to carry, pay your money, and walk out of the gun store with your suppressor? That would be awesome, and not pay the $200 tax. Well, components of the Hearing Protection Act would do exactly that. And by the way, there's also the SHUSH Act, the Silencers Help Us Save Hearing Act, that would actually deregulate suppressors altogether, not even treat them as firearms, and allow you to buy one without even going through the process that you have to go through to buy a gun. You can buy them just like a bipod or an optic or any other firearm accessory. But that's not what's in right now with what we're calling the great big beautiful bill that was passed in the House and is now sitting in the Senate. But if in its current form, if the great big beautiful bill, and obviously a lot of people have issues with this, it's adding a whole bunch of money to the deficit. I've heard $5 trillion. That's what Elon Musk got upset about. But take those issues aside, if it would pass in its current form, it would take suppressors out of the NFA. You still have to pass a background check to buy one, just like a firearm, but they wouldn't be separately regulated under the National Firearms Act and treated like a machine gun or short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, etc. Well, as you might guess, some Democrat politicians don't like that much. And Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, had this to say about suppressors being taken out of the NFA.
I want you to imagine how much more death and destruction will happen in a mass shooting if no one can hear the gunshots. Think about how many more classrooms that shooter can get into. Think about how many more movie theaters that shooter could move to. Think about how many more rooms in the church that mass murder might get to. Silencers are the tools of killers. They are the tools of criminals. Period. Stop. And so if we want to save lives in this country, we have to find a way, come hell or high water, to stop the mass legalization of silencers in this country. It has nothing to do with the budget. This is about doing a favor to the gun lobby.
Is any of that true? First of all, when you fire a suppressed firearm, particularly indoors or frankly anywhere else, is it true that no one can hear the gunshots? Listen, Hollywood would have you believe that a suppressed firearm sounds like what? Right? That's the sound you hear in movies. Well, those of us who own suppressors and shoot guns that are suppressed, no, that's not even remotely true. Depending on a whole lot of factors, barrel length and caliber, et cetera, typically, talking general numbers here, a suppressor takes a gunshot from about 160 decibels down to about 130. What is comparable to 130 decibels? That's the noise of a chainsaw running or a jet taking off from about 150 yards. It's still damn loud. Now, under some circumstances, it may be hearing safe in short intervals. But I have suppressed SBRs, short-barreled rifles, that I always wear hearing protection when I shoot them. Now, a suppressed 300 blackout, shooting subsonic ammunition so you don't get the rifle cracked. Outdoors, hearing safe. Suppressed 22, love shooting suppressed 22, hearing safe. But indoors, shooting something like a rifle, an AR platform rifle, or a decent-sized caliber like 9mm or 40 or 45, it's going to still be damn loud. To say no one can hear the gunshot is absurd. Secondly, let's look. I mean, there are a gazillion suppressors out there right now. And I'm proud to say I participated in this process. But there are roughly 3.5 million legally owned suppressors today. That's up from 2.6 million just in 2021. So we've added damn near 1 million suppressors in that time frame. And by the way, suppressors are incredibly easy to make. Homemade suppressors, you can make a suppressor. I've seen them. I have seen them. I have experienced them. You can make them with a 2-liter pop bottle. You can make them with a potato. You can make them with an oil filter. Not big-time technology. And guess what? Even though they're widely available, and even though there are several million of them in private hands in the U.S., since 1998 through today, you know how many suppressors have been used? You know how many quote-unquote mass shootings have involved use of a suppressor? Two. An incredibly small percentage of the 104 public mass shootings. It's simply not a concern. That's the BS you heard from Chris Murphy. That's it for this week's show. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Comcast Business is celebrating Small Business Month by giving you a